Hello, YouTube. Chance Paladin here, and I wanted to do a video about each of my books because I hadn't done a really good job explaining. I'd kind of hinted and teased about it, and then I did a video explaining where they are, how much they were, and how to find them. But I hadn't done a really good video, I think, explaining what they were. So hopefully, you'll sit down for a few minutes and hear what I have to say about my books and my series. And so I'm Chance Paladin. If you've been here on the channel for any amount of time, you'd know that. And live in the Pacific Northwest. And if you live here, maybe you know this already, but things haven't been going great, or maybe you live somewhere else in the United States or in a lot of other places in the world, things aren't going great, and there's been a lot of kind of semi-science fiction, kind of semi-dystopian books, and people have been writing them for a really long time. There's been really, really popular ones and some less popular, and a lot of indie ones, and they've all been really good. But I think there's a lot of room there for everybody's personal stories, because I think everybody's gonna. Well, let me step back a little bit. I think, like, the collapse is. I was talking to my parents about this yesterday because they stopped by to help me out because things haven't been going great. Like, again, as you know, but those of you, if you're new here, you wouldn't know. Um, and I was trying to explain to them about the book, but they wouldn't even listen to me for like 10 seconds. And they asked if it was fiction or nonfiction. They only asked two questions. First one was like where they could find the book, which that was weird. I just told them, I said, well, it's on Amazon or Kindle, and they didn't seem to understand that. And they said, well, could we get a print copy of it? And I was like, yeah, they have a print copy. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And they're like, oh, okay, cool. Then they tried to take my proofs, and I thought that was pretty funny. I'm like, get those back, those are my proofs. But the other question they asked was if it was fiction or nonfiction. And I was like, well, that depends on your point of view. It's like some of this has already happened, and some of it, some of it hasn't happened yet. The book takes place 2 years in the future, but I mean, like, how much of the collapse do you consider has already happened? How much of the collapse do you consider is happening now? And how much of it do you consider is happening, or has yet to happen, I guess I should say. And I guess they just weren't really in the mood to hear it, and because they were in a hurry. But the book takes place 2 years in the future from now, because I tried to set it to when, like nobody knows the exact date and time, but I tried to set it when we think it's going to happen, right? When the and like, well, what's that mean, when it's going to happen? And I define that as it's on the back of my book, like, and it's when the collapse doesn't allow anyone to ignore it anymore. When the collapse doesn't allow anyone to deny its existence anymore. And it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which president went into office. It doesn't matter which congressman. Some of that stuff matters a little bit for some little things, but by and large, history is set. There's only some things that can be tweaked. And people say, oh, fatist or whatever, blah, blah, blah. But some things just can't be changed. Because people don't change. And and it has nothing to do with presidents. It has to do with people. And so I started writing these books back in, I think, November of 2016, when I knew that our family didn't have a lot of time left. We were just about to lose our house. And things were just about like their absolute darkest. And trying to figure out how to not even save our house, trying to figure out how to keep our house through the winter, which is one of the worst winters that we've had in the Pacific Northwest in ages. And thankfully, I met some people through a program, like on the other end of this area, that got me in touch with another group that does nothing but like help people, and was able to like not save the house, but postpone the bank taking our house for as long as possible, and just furiously wrote these books as fast as I could, because I wanted to get the books out before we lost everything, and before I wouldn't be able to write them anymore. And slowly able to keep prolonging that process and just keep writing the books as fast as I can. And so it's like, that's a metaphor for what's going on in society, right? It's everything's on life support, right? Like, our house is on life support. We're on life support. We both have jobs now, quote unquote, but it's minimum wage part-time. We're both minimum wage part-time. That's not living. Okay, I have a bachelor's degree. I should be making 4 times that easily, and I should be working at least 40 hours a week, actually helping people and systems and processes. You guys know what I do, if you've watched my videos. So it's absurd, and that's not living. That's not being alive. And being on life support, it's not being alive. And I wanted to start to just get this out there, because I think that everybody who survives and actually thrives is going to have a story to tell. And I think that and I think they're each going to the reason why they're going to have a story to tell is because they're each going to have a really, really unique experience. And I think they're each going to have a really unique experience because they are such unique and extraordinary individuals. Because they didn't sit around playing Call of Duty with a bunch of other people playing Call of Duty. And I hate to pick on that game, but you can say Battlefield or whatever. People were actually out doing things. They were networking. They were finding groups that actually did things and worked with other groups and networked. And found what worked and then kept going, and then met more groups and found what worked and then kept going. And even if you don't stay with those groups, or like in my case, I found like the one housing helping group, and then they got me with the next housing helping group, and then eventually that got me linked up with a mediator, which eventually connected up with like the lawyers from the other side. And good grief, like there's no way I could have done that by myself. I should have been able to do that by myself, right? I should have been able to just talk to the bank by myself, but it doesn't work like that because systems are really super complicated. But I'm a system guy, so I could figure it out. But the people who survive are going to be the people who figure out unique solutions to problems. But everybody's solution is going to be different. And so that's what I try to write my books about. I wanted to write my books with a completely different solution than everybody else's solutions that I'd ever seen in any book. And I'm going to give a shout out to 299 Days, because as far as I know, that's still the only other like Pacific Northwest survival book. And I'm sorry, I haven't had any money to buy any more in 2 years. I still, in my opinion, I still think his series, Glenn Tate's series, is spot on. I still think it's spot on. He got so many things right, and I still think probably 95% of it's right, and the rest of it could still be right. But he approached it and reached the solution with his experience, and I think that's great. And I'm so glad that he did that. And he reached a lot of people, and he reached a lot of hearts. But I don't think that should be treated as a template. I think what it needs to do, and I think that's what my experience and what my journey showed me, is that everybody needs to try the issue out, and then see how they would address it with their own experience and their own tools and their own group. And what you'll find is that every single group is going to approach things a little bit different. Every single area is going to be a little bit different. And you might have water, you might not. You might have shelter, you might not. Like, everybody's going to have something different. People might be sick or they might not. And you can't trust or rely on like everything. And you can't rely on just planning. You can't rely on just training or just experience or just people or just gear. And it's got to be throwing yourself in situations over and over and over again, and meeting new people over and over again, and going to training. It's got to be doing as much as you can. Oh, cat just threw my mouse pad. And that's what I tried to do in these books. I kept trying to give my character, my fictional first-person character, new solutions to solve. And then I would sit there and try to figure out how I would solve it. Over and over and over. Every single book is just like that, over and over and over again. Oh, this would happen. What would I do? This would happen. What would I do? Over and over and over. And there's a lot of exposition. And I know the books aren't perfect. But they're not meant to be. They're not meant to be perfect, because that would take forever. and I'm going to release an official second edition of my first and second book once I release my third book, which is probably maybe a third of the way done. My third book's going to be absolutely huge. Starting this job. Damn it, cat. Whew. Farty fart. Cat. I'm sorry, guys. Getting this job, which has been extremely upsetting, has been both amazing because it helped keep our house for roughly 2.5 more months, but also the job has been emotionally really, really hard on me, and I haven't been able to write because of it. But I was able to write for maybe half an hour last night finally. Come on. And I'm gonna do my best to write all day. But this book 3 is gonna be about three, 2.5 maybe times larger than my first book. I'm gonna actually try to get, which I know it's like, I know these books aren't very long. They're both less than 100 pages, but that's because. But I made them, as you can see. I'm gonna move it over really quick. I think. There. I mean, I know the paperback is super expensive, but that's not my fault. I took almost no markup at all, and what I did was I made the Kindle. I wanted to say that in the other one, and I forgot to say that. I made the Kindle super, super, super affordable, and took almost no markup on the Kindle either. And also, what I forgot to say in my other video, because I'm going to make this one longer and not really stress about it, and I'm not going to do any video editing either, is that the Kindle's not DRM, so you can watch it on whatever you want. Excuse me, cat. This is what they do when I start talking, and they know I'm doing stuff, and they want to be a part of it. I really wanted it to be accessible, and I didn't want to feel like I was, punishing anybody for them being less than 100 pages. In fact, the second book, and I'll do a separate video on the second book. The second book, I tried to get the price down even more, but I think I was only able to get the price down like 40 more cents or something like that. I wasn't able to get the price down very much more due to it being shorter. So the kind of the idea with their lengths, though, what I wasn't trying to make a long book, or a short book. I was trying to make the book exactly the length of the story, and that was the reasoning behind it. And so, because of that, just think of the print editions as kind of like a collector thing, I guess. And then the Kindle, that's why I made them. That's why I cut the price down so much and just took the DRM off, because in fact, I think the first book is even shareable with one person if you really wanted to. I don't believe in that DRM stuff, so. And I think so far to date, I don't even think I've sold one book. But it's important to me still to try, because so many people go, oh, I could write a book, I could do this, I could do that. Writing a book is hard. Not only that, And they tell you this, but I didn't have time because um, proofing the book takes time also. And then once you get the book, you realize that on print, you actually have a whole other line of work cut out for you. And that's why I'm going to do a second edition way, way later. So, and it's your chance to get like a first edition before I go in and start modifying a bunch of the. I'm not gonna modify any of the content. I'm done modifying the content in the first one. I like how I kept the first one a little bit. I don't know. I think there's one slight change I want to make at the end. It's not gonna change any of the content though. It's just one explanation. But what I've noticed in the third book is that I start getting hyper detailed with everything because I want to start being able to explain a lot more. And part of that is to show the character's growth, but part of that is because I get a lot more comfortable writing by the third book. Because I wrote the first book and the second book together. And then I had to edit and re-edit the first and second book as I was working on the third book, and then had to take another break on the third book when I started working. Because emotions, but and time. But so I just wanted to explain that the first book is basically the night that the collapse, specifically the Pacific Northwest, like that's all these stories are gonna revolve around. They're not gonna hop around. I know 299 Days was like Washington and Texas, and I know like Lucifer's Hammer was like California, and there's a lot of other ones, a lot of other really good ones that I can't think about. Like The Stand was kind of the mid, like New York, and then kind of like going into the Midwest and stuff a little bit, and then like Nevada. I still haven't finished it because things keep happening, but every survival book or every preppery kind of dystopian book seems to the area is almost as much of a character, and these books are no different. And I think anyone who lives in the Pacific Northwest knows what I'm talking about. Like, this area is a character, like, and this region is a character, and it's very much going to be that way in the story. So this is the first book. This is when the collapse decides that it can't be ignored anymore, and our hero finds himself away from his home on the eve of the collapse, trying to figure out what's going on and unable to make it back. And will he be able to find shelter in the darkness before he freezes in the cold, quiet night? That's the little blurb that I put for the web. And then on the back of the book, it says, "Do you remember where you were when the lights were out? Or when the lights went out? Do you remember when the collapse finally reached the tipping point? And when I put, do you remember where you were when the lights went out? It's kind of ironic because I have the lights going out at night, and most people don't even realize when the lights go out at night, and a lot of that's kind of, again, like another metaphor. Just people don't realize that these things are going on. I guess I don't want to give too much weight. Maybe it's just really deep to me and nobody else gives a crap, but um, this is, I get, and if this is a little disorienting, I guess it's because it's written like he's talking about all this in past tense. The main character's talking about all this in past tense. So he says, "Do you remember when the collapse finally reached the tipping point? When it let everyone know it couldn't be ignored anymore? When denial wasn't going to be an option any longer? I'll never forget where I was. I was out for a walk because my cat wouldn't let me sleep. That's how it all started for me, in the dark, in the cold, just trying to make it through the night. A night that seemed to never end." And that's it. He's just out for a stroll, and I mean, I don't want to give anything away. I really like this story. I've already read it like 10 times. The biggest thing I get people say is that there's not enough books like this out there. And I would agree with them. And I don't know how to market my book. I don't know how to get it out there. I don't know if I irritate people by talking about it, but I don't think the book companies, or I mean the book software applications or whatever, I don't think anybody really has a way of finding it, unfortunately. And I know I have some run-on sentences and stuff, but there's a couple. I just hope the run-on sentences don't turn anybody off. I don't want to fix them now, and I mean, maybe I could fix them now. I just don't know what it's gonna do to the system. So maybe I try to fix them today. I would rather be looking forward than behind, and if I could get some feedback, but nobody seems to be interested in, I don't know. Everybody seems to be interested in their own things. Isn't that funny? It's hard to find people. I think everybody's more interested in ignoring what's going on, and I think people get really uncomfortable talking about this stuff. So I think I'm gonna wait a little bit to make a video about the second one and see if anything comes up with this one. And while I consider if I want to just leap in and try to make like a second edition now. I don't know what the repercussions will be, if that'll blow up and cause like Kindle and the print thing to all be offline for like 72 hours. It sucks when you don't have any feedback. But all it really is like a couple run-on sentences that look funny in print. I didn't notice them until it was in print. I feel silly now. I don't know how I missed them after so many times. But if somebody actually listened through all this, even if you don't buy the book or books, because it's going to be a series, I really appreciate you listening. And writing books is really hard. Regardless of what anybody says, the hardest part's always the emotional capacity. And any artist, whether it be writing or painting or drawing or computer based, the emotional capacity is the hardest part. It's so draining if you're not like flowing right. And I don't know what to call it, but the first two just like were exploding to get out, and then like everything just hit the fan when I tried to write my third one. And I've got so many things that I want to write for it. And yeah, it would just really help if like a couple people checked out my third book. Or I mean, blah. It would really help me on my third book if a couple people checked out my first two books. But if not, I'm going to write my third book anyway, and my fourth and my fifth. I've got 5 books planned total. At least. That's just the beginning. That's the beginning. So thanks for listening. It's been Chance Paladin talking about my Pacific Northwest Affliction book series, which is fictional, set in events that are going on right now, that'll still be going on in 2 years. And 2 years after that. It's kind of cool. I hope you check it out. It gets a little bit of sci-fi in there, a little bit of dystopian. So I don't know what to rate it, because the rating systems for books doesn't make any sense. I think kids are more mature these days, so I didn't put anything on there like that. There's no graphic, like, adult sexy time in there. I think in the second book, like, people mention like that, like, hey, we were going to go have a romantic encounter, is I think about as specific as it gets. Not that there's anything wrong with any of that. I just think writing about it is extremely awkward. That's all. Plus, you all know what happens in survival movies and stuff. As soon as that stuff happens, you all get friggin' killed. Stuff. Come on now. Anyway, so the rest, but like violence, yes. All kinds of that in. Yeah. I try not to be like super gory. For the first book, yes, there's absolutely absolutely violence in the first book. Like you can't have a book about the collapse. You can't have the series about the collapse without there being just you can't get around it unless you like I don't know, it's impossible. And then I'll talk about the second one some other time some more. But yeah, no adult hanky panky, and that's not going to be more than anything but like mentioned in my books. So if you want to read that, I'm sure there are other books for you that mention those words over and over again as many times as you want. Nothing wrong with that, but just weird. Weird to write about. Weird to read. I think. I've never understood that, and I think that's a different style. I'm not gonna try to sit and figure that out, like, because I'm writing from a different perspective, if that makes sense. And that's how I kind of started the video, and I think that's how I'm gonna end the video with my cat getting up here for about the 87,000th time. Is it's from an analyst's point of view. So, and that's kind of just the way it is. The whole set of stories. And so, whereas other stories might be from like a lawyer's point of view or from a writer's point of view. And I think just the analyst in me says, what value does that have? And people say, well, it doesn't have to have value. It has to be interesting. It has to be this, it has to be that. It's like, I don't see the value there. I don't see how that's going to help people later on. I think I'll probably talk about it. I think I'll talk about like the theory behind it. Definitely. But I'm not gonna sit there and dwell on it and write like romantic story arcs for everybody. That's not part of the thing. So people that have romantic ties, if they're on romantic outings and stuff, that's all I say. That's it. It doesn't. I don't go into detail. Y'all weirdos got to use your imaginations. Okay? And for a lot of things like that, I imagine that there's being a book or a video game later being made, and then that way the director can just make up their own thing without people freaking out and going, this is nothing like the book. And then like the director will thank me later and go, oh, thank goodness you didn't put a bunch of friggin' stuff in this spot over exactly what this was supposed to be like. And I'll be like, you're welcome, dude. Or girl, if it's a girl director. Anyway, enough rambling for me. But yes, there are relationships in my stories. I just don't go into all crazy romantic details because it's first person. And so if other people explain to me romantic details, I just tell them to shut up. I can't fucking stand it when people tell me romantic details. I just blah. And if they do, I just think to myself, blah 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 blah. Romantic details. Blah 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 blah. So, I mean, so like if that ever happened in my book, and someone did start describing graphic romantic details, that's what that's what it would end up looking like. If that, I didn't want to go on a giant tangent on this, but I think it's funny because that kind of gives you, ow, kind of gives you like an idea of like my writing style. These books kind of aren't normal. I think at least they're not like any book I've ever read, because I don't think I've ever read a book before like from an analyst perspective. So anyway, I'm just gonna cut the video here, and thanks, and I hope you check them out. But if not, thanks for listening, and I'll put links in the description down below. And it's super cool. I want to give a huge thank you to whoever the cool person was at Amazon who actually linked the Kindle and paperback together. I didn't think they were actually going to do that, and I messaged them, and they did. It took like a week, but that's freaking awesome. So anyway, thanks for watching, everybody, and I'll leave links down below, and don't forget to waste trash fiercely at your local recycling center before it closes down. Due to everything. And yeah, thanks. I don't know what to say. Talk to y'all later. Bye.